Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you have been having a good time with our third seminar, Improving Listening Skills in English Language Teaching. And this is our third session. So we are coming to recharge our batteries in to acquire all this new knowledge or to remember the knowledge that or enhance our previous knowledge about listening skills. So remember, please keep your mics off so that we won't have any background noises and interruptions while the Dr. John is presenting. And I just want to share with you this quote that says, a good listener is not only popular everywhere, but after a while, he or she knows something. And that was said by Wilson Misner. Remember, a good listener is popular, yes, but we always learn something new. So let's keep that in mind while Dr. John is presenting. Remember, this seminar is possible because the English Department Coordinating Committee, with the support of the Extension and Continuing Education Coordination of the College of Humanities from Universidad de Panamá, it joined to make this possible. This is our third seminar, and it's an online modality. So to give the welcoming words for today, we'll call Professor Marisol Ortega, who is the coordinator of the Long-Term Education Committee of the English Department of the College of Humanities from Universidad de Panamá. Professor Marisol.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Dr. Rubin. It's been a pleasure having you during this week. Actually, I think we have learned a lot. Well, and my dear participants, thank you for being here, eager to learn. I guess there are new things you have learned about listening skills, which you have not learned before because of the traditional way in which we were taught. So let's just continue paying attention and enjoy our classes. God bless you all.
Thank you, Professor Marisol. And today, Dr. John Rubin is going to be talking to us about instructional strategies to promote the learner's use of metacognitive processes, planning, monitoring, evaluating, to improve their process of listening, task analysis. So, Professor Dr. John, with no longer ado, the room is yours.
Thank you very much. I want to make sure that everybody gets their revisions in. I've looked at some of them, and what I'd like to clarify a few things because some of you did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This has to do with the homework, and it's very helpful for me to see the homework. Let's go back to this product process. Some of you didn't like the word product. Think of it as what. The what is language, and the process is how. Now, we're trying to help people be better listeners. And that means that they need to acquire, decide they want to learn new ways of listening. It turns out that when we're talking about strategies, if you just do an activity, that doesn't mean that they have acquired that strategy. You'll remember yesterday, I talked about the experiment with the fill in the blank, the closed kind of thing. If you just ask them, to fill in the blank, they haven't got a how. That's not a how. They don't know what they're doing or why they're doing it. They're just filling in the blank. And when you start by explaining what is the how, well, there is something called using the context. That's what that particular one is. Use the context. So when people have a name for things, they can hold on to it a little bit better. You may know the name, and some of you listed names, but you have to plan. Part of your lesson plan is tell them what they're doing. It's not just that they're sitting there doing what you want them to, but they need to take control of the process. They need to know what they're doing, and they need to know why they're doing it. And maybe even, because as I mentioned to you, what we found, a lot of the fill in the blank kind of things require a certain amount of background knowledge. And if they don't have it, context doesn't help. They don't have a certain amount of knowledge, context doesn't help. So the way in which I have suggested to many of you when I read your papers, when you are writing a lesson plan, you need to find a way, and tell me that you know a way to teach, not even teach, remember I said I can't teach, to help people acquire new ways of listening. Because, yeah, they did your exercise, but did they know what they were doing or why they were doing, or if they could use it some other time? No. You have to make it conscious. So it means name it, then explain why it's useful, okay? And then you model it. People are it helps to model what you're doing. Did I model something? When I asked you all to look back at your own papers and apply what I had been talking about, that's, in a sense, getting you a chance to own the strategies. Okay, you model it and then you practice it. So some of you at least had the names of what I would call listening strategies. Be careful with having too many, one at a time, but making sure that your students know what they are doing, not just fill in the blank or brainstorm. If they're brainstorming, they should know that this is a listening technique, strategy, right? So you have to name it. Otherwise, they'll go away and they haven't really acquired anything. They may do it automatically. If they're a good learner, they may already do that kind of thing. But what we found is that people who are not expert learners don't have those strategies. And it takes time to help them acquire those strategies. And they're only going to acquire them if you have a reference point, which is, this is brainstorming. This is using background knowledge. This is using the cognate knowledge that you have. Any questions? Anybody have a question?
Professor, the technique of the debate, what is for you the technique when the professor uses the technique debate between a group or between students about a topic?
Well, the issue is debating is not a strategy. Knowing the structure of a debate, that would be a good strategy. What is the structure of a debate? The structure of a debate is you have people in favor and against. That's the first part of the structure. And the people who are for, there is a certain structure there in terms of I don't know what the structure you use for a debate. One of the things that's interesting is that in the United States, if you are presenting an idea or presenting something or trying to convince people, the first thing you do is give them what we call the bottom line. Right, here's my conclusion. And then you give them all the supporting information. And usually there's a summary at the bottom. Now, the interesting thing about that is that in England, it's the opposite. They give you all the information and then they give you the conclusion. Asia, Indonesia, they never give you a conclusion. They give you all the facts or details, but you have to find your own conclusion. So the structure of a debate, you have to know how a debate is structured. Now that would be listening. Okay, how about the structure of, let's talk about the structure of a television program. Well, let's think about, what about soap opera? What's the structure of a soap opera? Any of you watch soap operas ever? Anybody? I'm talking to a blank wall, nobody's face I can see except for Osiris, Alejandra, Isabella, Javier, come on back. Anna, good. Come on, folks, I need to see your reactions. I don't want to talk to a blank monitor. Okay, so what's the structure of a soap opera? Eileen, good. Anybody?
I
Nobody?
only know the show, but not the structure.
You don't know?
I only know the name of the show, but not the structure.
Okay, the structure of most soap operas is you are introduced, it has three parts. You're introduced to people, their relationships. Then the second part is some complication. That's what makes it a soap opera. And the last one is the resolution. That's what we're calling the structure. Okay, think about for a minute a newscast. And we listen to CNN and sometimes we listen to local newscasts. What's the structure of the newscast? Well, it depends on which station, which channel it is. So what BBC does is it gives you like 3 or 4 main points. You know, this happened, there was murder here, there was a bus crash there, they're not making enough ammunition for Ukraine. And then that's the first part. The second part is elaboration of that. They go on with some other pieces. Now, a lot of stations, the last thing they do is they have a feel-good section. I don't know if you all have it, but some kid who did something or somebody who, you know, helped somebody. So there's a structure. If you make people, so with your debate kind of thing is helping them understand the structure and where things go and what to listen for. It used to be that we got, well, sometimes we get weather forecasts, and if all you're interested in is the weather forecast, you probably don't need to, you have to know where it is in the TV program. Okay? All right. Any other questions? I couldn't tell, some of you, I was able to read your revisions. Ensign gave you a mark. Some of you, I couldn't tell because they were like, they had yesterday's time, like about in the middle of the afternoon. Well, that's not going to be a revision. So what we're going to do, and what do? Go to PowerPoint? Let's see, here we are, day 3. No, I want to have day 2. I still want day 2. How do I find that? Well, we didn't quite finish with goal setting, and goal setting is too important. Can you get me, Dave? We're gonna. Let's go down. Okay, wait a minute. What this has to do with blah, blah, blah. Okay, you remember this one, which was setting goals. I think setting goals is very important. So I want to spend a little bit of time today. So here are some possible goals for listening. One you've talked about is identification. What does that mean? Who, what, where, when? That's one goal that a student could have. Another is orientation. What kind of event is this? Is it a newscast? Is it a wedding? Is it somebody's voting? What is the event? Major ideas, that gets to be very difficult. A lot of people say focus on the major ideas. I'm not sure I know how to find them, but sometimes it has to do with intonation, or maybe it has to do with the first sentence in a particular paragraph. Then you want to get specific details. Let's say there's a boy meets girl, we'll go back to that. Okay, how tall? How old was the boy? What was he wearing? All right. Or what did he do? Did he touch the girl? Did he hand her a book? What, those are details, action details. And at some point, you want to get all the details. That may be your goal. Unfortunately, in listening, a lot of people think, and this is where they get frustrated, they think they have to understand everything. And if they don't understand everything, they've failed. Well, they haven't. They need to start with something simple like identification. Who are the characters? Where are they? What are they doing? What are the major ideas? And then maybe, and you can't do that all at once, especially if you're a beginner. If you're a beginner listening in a language, all you may be able to do is to know who is it and where are they. Maybe a little bit about what their relationship is. Then there's something called intention. That's a very important thing. What's my intention? Am I trying to convince you that global warming is nonsense, is not scientific? Is that my intention? Or is my intention to try to make you happy or to try to make somebody happy? That's something it's a little more complex, especially if we're talking about students at a higher level of proficiency should be able to work out intention. Beginning with maybe by facial kinds of things and actions, they might talk about the intention. Our boy meets girl, maybe his intention is to get a date with her. Okay. And then what's the relationship among the ideas? Do they follow one thing to the other? And if you're listening to something, it's not logical, that doesn't follow. But that's a fairly sophisticated way. But in helping your students establish goals, this is a list of goals that they could possibly learn to listen for. Any questions? And I gave you this yesterday. We did that. Okay. I would like you, each of you, to choose, select a goal for today. Like one of these, save money, lose or gain weight, become something, stop doing something, win something. Choose number 1 to 6. And individually, I want you to write a SMART goal. Let me see if I have that here. Okay. To confirm your goal is SMART. Okay, you're going to stay here? Okay. But you have your computer? Okay, good. We have a person. All right. So see if you can use the SMART goal acronym to confirm your goal is SMART. Again, may I remind you, make sure your goal is specific. Make sure it's measurable. If not, work on making your goal more specific. Make sure it is attainable. That is, you have the time, money, and ability to attain your goal. Make sure it's relevant to your life and that it has a realistic timeline. I'll give you an example. One person wanted, and saving money is one that a lot of people choose. Okay, this person wanted to have enough money. Her goal was to save enough money to buy a television, a new television. And what was measurable? Well, she said it was going to be $500 to buy, or $400 to buy a new television. Okay, is it attainable? Well, that was interesting. She said, what I make right now, I can't save money to buy a television. So what she said was, well, I can do something on the side and use that as the money that I'm saving. And what did she decide? In this case, she was a lady who makes cheesecake. And so the cheesecake, she says, I can make about $50 a month selling my cheesecake. Okay, is it relevant? Well, it was relevant because she wanted a new television. That was something that was important to her. And the timeline, notice, until she figured out how it was attainable, she couldn't come up with a timeline. So the timeline had to do with she needed $400 and she was going to save $50 a month. So how long would it take her? $50 times how many months makes 400? Anybody? It's just a math issue. $50 a month. How many months to get 400?
20 months for home for
How many? How many?
20.
Huh?
20 months for 100 if you get 5 per month.
Not $5, $50.
$5. You need 20 to
But she said that she was going to save
more than a year.
She's going to save $50 a month, and she
50.
needs 50.
Okay.
If she has $50 a month, how many months will it take her to get her $400?
8 months.
8 months. Who said 8?
Well, we both said it. I think
Yeah,
Professor
8
Celia and Isabella.
Okay, so there you go, right? 8 months. That's her timeline because she wants $400 and she doesn't have it and she needs to save it. And the way she's going to save it is by cooking, by making cheesecake. Is that clear? So notice, notice 2 things. Number 1, I'm asking you to make SMART goals for yourself. I have given you an example, right? And showed you how it's very specific what she wants. She wants to buy a television. It's very specific how she's going to measure it. Anybody can count to 400. But when she got to attainable, she said, oh my, where am I going to get $400? So she had to think about that. And then she went away. We talked about why it was relevant, and the timeline was dependent on how much she could save a month. Okay, so I want everybody to pick one of these goals. Here they are, and write yourself a SMART goal for something for yourself that you care about. I'll give you about 5 minutes. Why don't you come closer if you want to be here? So I can see you. Part of the deal is to see you. Are you able to follow this? Okay, good. All right. So you have a pen and whatnot. You can, all right, pick yourself a goal or create a different one. If you have a different one, that's fine too.
Well, I choose saving money, but to save money, in terms of because I want to buy a 15 poetry book. So
A
my
particular book,
specific
a book?
yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so my specific thing, my specific goal is to buy a 15 poetry book. For that, for it to be measurable, I would put the money on a piggy bank or money box. I don't know how you call it in the States. Also, let me see the A part. Oh my God, I forgot what the A
I think you're,
stands.
I think you're at the A part. The measurable is the amount,
Yeah,
right?
it would be
The amount,
achievable.
yeah, the book is the specific.
Yes,
Measurable is the amount. Achievable is your piggy bank.
achievable would be the piggy bank.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, okay.
And what is relevant? Why is it relevant?
It would be relevant to read more in English because I want to read more in English. That would be the relevance. To
Okay, how
develop
long
my
is,
skills.
good idea.
Okay, so then the time base, I mean, how much it will take me. I mean, in the achievable part, I put that every week my parents will give me $5 by doing the chores. But then you
Okay,
told me that it was the
that's
piggy bank.
achievable. That's part of the achievable, yes. But the
Okay,
question is, how much is the book going to cost?
excuse me?
How much does this book cost?
Oh, it costs $15.
Oh,
So then I go to the time-based part. So by every week that my parents give me $5, then it will take me 3 weeks to achieve the $15.
perfect. You got it. Was that helpful to you?
That was helpful, yeah.
All right. What about one other person who wants to talk? Anybody do something other than saving money? Everybody's
me?
interested. Huh? Okay, Javier, let's hear what's your goal?
Okay, my goal is to save money for a new house.
A new house. Wow. Okay. What are you gonna
And
need?
excuse me?
How much money do you need?
Oh, I need $28,000.
How much?
800.
600?
$28,800.
Okay. So how are you gonna achieve that?
Well, having a budget, having a expenses and income account in order to save that money.
Some money
And-
aside? Can you
Pardon?
put money aside?
Yeah.
How much can you put aside?
$100 okay, $600 per month.
Oh, okay. So how
And
long is it? So is that relevant? Why do you want a new house?
it is relevant because it is relevant for my family and it is close to my workplace.
Closer to work.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah.
And the timeline, saving that amount of money will take me at around 4 years, approximately.
Four?
Four, yes.
Okay. By then your family will be bigger or smaller. Depends.
Yeah.
When you may have a different job, but okay, that's fine.
All
All right,
right.
that's fine. Very good. Let's do another one. Who has something else they want to share?
Hi, doctor.
Okay.
Hello.
Anna?
Me.
Anna? Uh-huh.
Yes, yes. My goal is to lose weight. To go to a wedding.
Okay, that's why it's relevant.
Yes.
All right, that's the relevant part because you're gonna go to a
Yes.
wedding and you want to get into a dress. Okay,
Yes.
and how much weight do you want to lose?
5 pounds.
All right, how are
5
you gonna
pounds.
How are you going to lose? That's not too bad. How are you going to lose the 5 pounds?
I was going to say 10, but I thought it was too much for too little time that I had.
Aha. So looking at
So
the time,
I
made you think
prefer
of it.
5. It's easier.
All right.
I have 2 weeks to lose 5 pounds.
Oh, so what are you going to do?
I thought going to the park and run for an hour every day.
Have you lost weight
maybe.
before that way? Has that worked for you?
Yes, it has, yes.
Good. Okay.
And
so,
a diet also, strict diet.
a strict diet. Okay.
If
Have you got a dress?
if I want to lose weight fast, exercise and a strict diet.
Have you done that before?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so and it worked.
Yes.
Okay, so you're talking about
That's why I thought that 10 in 2 weeks, it was, I remember when I had to do it. So I remember that it was more or less because I felt like the dresses was just a little, I wanted to feel that it felt looser. So with 5 pounds, it was enough
okay.
for the
good,
dress
but
to
it-
fit.
Okay, must be a nice dress. So in your time is 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
So let's go on. You get the idea of how to use. I think those are good examples. I'm sure there are more, and if anyone wants to share it with me, send it to me and I'll comment. All right. Oh, come on. Help, help, help. Help, help. We're trying. Oh, okay, we got this one and this one. So here we are, the measurement. Sometimes students have trouble with the measure part. I call it criteria. And so the question is, how will I, the student, know I have accomplished my goal? And the student should be asking themselves, is it concrete? Is it tangible? Can you say how many or how much? Will you feeling or the way you feel about something, or you see something or hear it? Because it's difficult when you're talking about, it's easy when you're talking about losing weight or saving money, but when you're talking about language stuff, you have to be help them make measures. All right. So we're going to work on that for another bit of time. Let's look at the chart below and decide why the criteria in the middle need work. Okay, so I'll do the first one. It says to determine the point of view of a speaker very concerned about global warming. The learner, how will he know? Here we are, point of view, bias, intention, those are all part of the same thing, right? So how will I know what the point of view of the speaker is on global warming? And the learner says, I can state whether I believe in global warming. I don't care. That's not stating the point of view. How do you know the point of view? The point of view will be something, is that somebody? Will be, maybe there are very positive statements or very negative statements about global warming. Okay. All right. To determine the storyline of a TV soap opera. The person says, I will decide if I want to listen to more episodes. Oh, that's not the storyline. The storyline, you have to find, how do you determine the storyline? Well, you might, if you can find words like first, next, then, on the one hand, on the other hand, things that give me some idea of the storyline. Or to find out more about a villain in the story. And my criteria is all villains are bad. That doesn't tell you anything about the villain. So your criteria will be if he's the murderer or what activities he or she does. Okay, let's move on for a minute here. All right. Now, some students find it helpful to work with a checklist to develop their goals and criteria. And for example, your goal in listening is to identify specific kinds of words. What's the evidence? You can name those words. I want to find all the adjectives. So if you can name, well, how long is the piece you're listening to? Determine the big picture. How can you tell if you have it? I'd say something like if it makes sense, or if it has a sequence, something, or if the ideas are supported. Here in this case, the major ideas, if there is good support, right? And the details, that you're going to look for adjectives, action verbs. Yes, question.
Okay,
Where am I? Adriana.
I have a question.
Yes, she's here with me.
For example, something that is in us. For example, this.
Ask her if she could use her computer because we have to hear the interaction. If you could use her headphones.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Because if I open my microphone, then the sound is.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so tell us what your question is.
Okay, how can we make something that depends on us measurable? For example, I set a goal like to be constant attending the gym.
Okay, the goal is
to be disciplined.
no, the goal is how many times, what would you said your goal is to be constant in attending the gym. What does it mean to be constant?
To go.
That's your.
And then when I was doing the ship, I put like I must attend. In order to attend, I might set a schedule or a daily routine. And the hardest part is to follow it. How can I?
Well, maybe one way you might do it is to make a chart. Make a chart, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever, and you put down the time that you went. Now, maybe can everybody hear us? Okay. All right. So, what your question would be? Do you have a particular time that this works?
And if I make a chart, that will be part of the achievable or measurable.
That's part of the achievable. It's helping you achieve it. It's helping, the chart would help you achieve it.
Okay.
Remember the guy was saying he was going to keep a chart, measure his weight, right? That's a measure, but he's keeping track of his weight, and that's what makes it achievable.
Okay.
That help?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, anything more?
No, that's it.
Anybody else? Okay, capture every detail. How will you know that you've captured every detail? Well, maybe if everything makes logical sense, it has a good sequence, something to do with the logic of it. And if the things are relevant one to the other. Now, sometimes people don't talk in a logical fashion. Professors in particular not always so logical. But you want to make sure that if you're listening to a lecture, does what you have make sense? You say, well, oh dear, I missed this. I have to find a way to get what I'm missing. Okay. Or again, we're back to determined intention. If you state that someone was frowning, or someone was smiling, or if you touch somebody, what's your intention? And that turns out to be a very interesting question, because in some countries you don't touch people. So I might be trying to be very nice and touch Adriana, is it?
Yeah.
Touch Adriana, and this has happened in politics, and everyone, right? All right. Another one that's kind of fun is in countries, married couples expect to be in the same bed. But it turns out that in Japan, they don't. They expect to be in separate beds, not necessarily separate bedroom. So if I gave them one bed, they wonder what my intention was. What were you trying to do? Do you want me to sleep on the floor? Okay. All right. Why is it important for learners to set their own criteria? You guys, some of you mentioned rubrics. Wonderful. Those are rubrics that you set to know whether your students have accomplished what they're supposed to be accomplishing. However, if I'm going to be independent and in control of my own learning, which is our ultimate goal, I need to set my own criteria. Now, here are some techniques to help learners identify their goals. Are you all familiar with can-do statements? Buddy? Well, if you look online, a lot of people trying to help students figure out, where am I? You know, what do I know and what I don't know? So you have a list of things I can make, for example, in English, I can greet people. I can make an argument. I can ask somebody for their age. I can follow a conversation. So if you look online, there's such a thing called can-do statement. And why is that important? It's important because something, or you can't, usually the way they are is always, sometimes, never, something like that. And they can look at what they can and cannot do. And then they can decide which one of those is most important. Not the same goal for everybody. Some people are very good, for example, at speaking. Some people are better at listening. Some people have no trouble memorizing vocabulary. All right, oops, that happened. All right, now this is one of my favorite activities. How many of you ask your students ever to write a journal in which they identify their learning problems? Anybody? This is a very, very useful technique for two reasons. And what I consider should be in the journal is, what problems did I have in class or with the homework? Why do I ask that question? So that the student can be aware. Awareness is number one. So what am I having trouble with? The teacher may have an idea, but I need to have it. And what do I do about it? How did I address those problems? Work. And what else could I do? Okay, so the journal, when I'm teaching a regular class, ask everybody to write a journal every week. And I'm writing it, I don't care what language it is. If you want to write it in Spanish, not a problem. Because this is not, you don't correct it. The purpose of the journal is not to correct their English. The purpose journal is to make the learner aware of what problems they have, and also to help the learner decide which ones you want to work on. They have a lot of problems, but if you're not ready to work on them, you know, there's a lot of research that shows that when teachers correct, if the learner is not ready to work on it, you're wasting your time. It's when they are ready and think it's a problem they need, right? So another thing I do with journals is peer work. In other words, everybody brings in their journal and the students exchange their journals and read them. And the point is not just to say good job. The point is, if a student had problems, to make suggestions how to solve that problem. And peer work is wonderful, as you all know, some of you have mentioned it, because students will listen to each other faster than they'll listen to you, the teacher. So this is a very powerful tool to help students figure out what my goals are, what I'm having problems with, and what am I doing about that? Okay? The last one, oh, that's there. Oh, help, help, help. Nope, it doesn't. Oh, there it is. Okay. Here's another way of getting students to identify their problems. Is this? So you ask them, what do you find hard about listening in English? Well, very often people come up with things like, it's too fast. I find, as I may have mentioned, I have never had problems with talking Spanish in more than 10 Spanish-speaking countries. But here in Panama, you guys speak very fast. And I find it very difficult. So I usually, what can I do about it? I say, slow down. I have no choice. I say, I can't understand you because you're talking too fast. Or people say there are unknown words. What can you do about unknown words? Well, it depends on how important they are. But also you can look them up in a dictionary. You can ask a native speaker or someone like a native speaker, what about unknown concepts? Well, today there's no problem. Wikipedia is with us all the time. And I'm using it as well as everybody else. So you may have to, do something about it. If it's hard for you, you have to think about what you're going to do. Okay, all right, here's another one. This was used by a woman who was teaching Japanese. And what she had on the left here was the days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And the student would write in, how many words are you going to learn today? 5, 100, right? How will you know that you've learned it? Have to know, not when the teacher says yes, but how will you know? And it turns out that words is a very, very complicated thing. Knowing a word could be knowing how to spell it, knowing how to pronounce it, use it in the right way, right? Understand it when it's spoken. There are lots of ways of knowing words. So you have to decide, how are you going to know if you're, let's say that your criteria are correct pronunciation. Well, you may have to go online to make sure that you're pronouncing it correctly. Is it achievable? Well, let's go back. How many words did you say you wanted to learn? If you said 5 and you met your criteria, wonderful. If you said 20, maybe that's too much for Monday. Maybe only 5 for Monday. Or maybe on Tuesday, you may want to try more. Is it relevant? Well, what are you going to do with those words? Why are you learning those words? Okay, so this is a nice form that my colleague created, and it helped her students a lot. Again, why do we do this? Help people begin to take control of their learning and of their listening.
Professor, excuse me, I have a question
Sure.
of the last slide. I still don't get the criteria for success.
What is your question?
Yeah, that could you please explain again the criteria for success?
Okay. How, in other words, my goal, this one it was used for words, okay? You could use it, depends. Are you thinking about listening? This one I use, she was using it more for, well, you can use it for anything. But if you're thinking about how many words will you recognize in each day? Okay, let's say 10 words, or you might say, instead of how many adjectives will you recognize? How many verbs will you recognize? And how will you know? Well, might be the criteria for success is you might say, well, I'm going to go on the web and find out how it's, if I heard correctly, right? Or I might read an article about that and make sure I heard correctly. Does that help?
Yes, more or less, but yes.
Okay. All right, this one we've talked about, but tell me, problem solution. In other words, problem is your goal. And what is your solution? That's where you have to begin to think about ways, not, sometimes the teacher may make a suggestion, but what about you need to begin to find your own ways of solving your problems. The teacher, think about it, the teacher isn't always going to be there. That's the point. The teacher isn't going to be there. She may have 30 students. In some cases, people have 50 students in their class. Some parts of the world, they have 50 students. You're not there. Students have to begin to identify what their own problems are and how they're going to, this is where the achievable comes in. What do you have to do to solve this particular problem? And here's my answer. Without this ability, learners cannot help themselves and begin to become more in control of their own learning process. That's where we're going, folks. I don't know if you heard the word autonomy. Is that a word that you hear? Well, people talk about autonomy, but what I'm giving you are the tools to become autonomous. You can't, some people are automatically autonomous. I'll give you a for instance. I went for my doctorate and I had a course in physical anthropology. And the topic was the theory of the gene in the 20th century. I didn't know any physics. I didn't know any chemistry, but that was my topic. It took me 7 weeks to get that paper together because I had to learn about DNA. That was brand new DNA and molecule, the four desoxyribonucleic acid and what all of that was, okay? Because I'm not a chemist and it was new. But how did I do it? I got an honors, got 100. And that was at Yale University, which is one of the top universities in the country, okay? But I had to figure out, the professor wasn't going to help me. I was autonomous. And the professor, the more you are as an adult, you need to be able to solve your own problems. Now, maybe you consult with people, maybe use Wikipedia, whatever, but you need to be able to control and recognize your problems and think about how you can solve it. The teacher may help, the teacher may give you some ideas about how to do something. That's fine. but she or he will not always be there. Oh, this is a good one. I was in Tokyo some years ago, and I had about 6 weeks of Japanese a couple times a week. This was back in the time when there wasn't that much English around Tokyo. Now, my task was to listen to directions because I was trying to, because I was going to meet a friend at a hotel. My goal was to get information about how to get to my hotel. I needed directions. How will I know what, and how will I know? Well, how can I measure that I got the information? Well, if I got to the hotel on time, yeah. And if I thought to myself, I have basic words for direction. As you can tell, I'm not afraid to speak. And previously, people could understand my very, very basic survival Japanese. Is it relevant? Well, I haven't seen this friend in many years. And I had 15 minutes to get there. Okay. So even with a little bit of Japanese, well, you know what I did? You know how I did it? How would I do it? I would walk a block and I'd say, where is the Hotel Osiro? Ba 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 ba. Thank you. I would go the first direction. I go a block. Where is the Hotel Osiro? Turn left, turn right, turn left. I go left. Where is the Hotel Osiro? And I got there on time. But it was a difficult problem. But I had a clear purpose. Okay. Now, if you're setting goals and the goals may not be too smart, so you may want to help them think about realistic ones. I don't know if I mentioned yesterday, these students in Ecuador that wanted to go study medicine in Korea and didn't know any Korean. No way, okay? Make sure that your criteria are ones that you can measure yourself. And one of the ways to make it achievable is acquire the missing knowledge. And think, now a lot of students have a problem with concentrating. They try to put too much into a day and try to study for an exam way too late. And I had a case where a student told me that the only time that she could do her homework was like 11:30 at night. She said she was tired. I said, I would be too. I said, here's a possibility. Here's something you can do. Spend 15 minutes doing exercises. Don't study. Just here we are we haven't done our exercises. Everybody raise your hands up. Let me see those hands go up, 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 up. Ana, hands up. All right, Marisol, Javier, get the blood flowing. All right, so what I'm saying is that if somebody has a problem, sometimes concentration is one of them. Sometimes it's emotions that keep you from getting to your goal. What are some ways you can help you to, let's say, oh, take a deep breath. Think about, you could visualize, think about some place you want to be, some lovely beach, right? Or maybe use some music, sometimes people, or eat chocolate. Those are things that people do to try to deal with your emotions. Right? Here's a biggie. Make sure the relevance of the task relates to your everyday life. Very important. Why? Motivation. If you don't know why you're doing this and how it will help you, you're not going to be very motivated. One of the reasons that a lot of English has gotten into English for special purposes. So if you're a medical doctor and you need to learn English, you don't want to know certain things. You don't want to, you may want to know somebody's age because of your position, but there are things, there's language that you use. I had a friend who worked with the equivalent of Costco here, it's called Price Smart. And she was the pharmacist. She said, sometimes people come in who speak Spanish. This is in the US. And we need to have the right language. You don't need to know lots of language about the train went off the track. You need the language relating to drugs and dosages and that kind of thing. So it should, the closer it can be to something that you care about, or it's going to be a better goal. And some of you thought about your time frame. It depends on what your goal is. Okay, I mentioned this earlier. If you are trying to get learners to be in touch with their problems and what matters to them, that's important. What matters to them, correcting errors doesn't work. There's lots of research that shows you can spend your whole weekend writing red marks in your students' books, but it's much more important for them to do it for themselves. Now you will notice, what did I do with your lesson plans from day one? I read them, and then I gave you some criteria for improving them. But I didn't improve them. I said, go back and notice this. I wasn't correcting them, right? Because research has shown that it doesn't work. You can do it up a wazoo, as we say. They may not be ready to make particular correction. It may not be a problem. They don't think that's a goal for them. And if you correct them, they won't learn how to solve their own problem. I asked you to go back. Big deal was product versus process. Go find your own products and process. Learners need to begin to identify their own problems to determine, this is another one, is there a pattern? You might keep a track of what your problems are, and maybe there's a pattern. Do you want to do something about that? I think we're almost there. Let me see. How many more we? 1, 2. Oops. We're not going to do this now. All right. We did. All right. Okay. This was your homework, supposed to be your homework for yesterday. This is your homework for tonight. Sorry, let me go back. Use a chapter from your textbook and develop a lesson to include goal setting. What does that include? SMART goal setting. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-based. And I want to see, if you are going to show that you understand SMART goals, you will need that acronym. I will look for the acronym and how you explain and give students opportunities to be specific and measurable. Well, that's what your lesson plan is. Let's go to 1 second.
Excuse me, this is in groups, right?
Well, you tell me. I understand that what in the end is going to happen is I need to give you a pass fail. So it should be clear. Well, there are two things, and I don't know if Marisol is still with us, but there are two aspects to it. One is some of you don't have textbooks or don't have experience, so maybe better do it in groups. And then I think what we'll do is, if I have comments as to how you could change it, then maybe each of you would separately give me an improvement. Is that okay?
Yes, I
Okay.
think it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yes,
what I
and
want,
I'm
sorry, question?
I'm sorry for interrupt you, lady. Okay, and yes, and I think that we have, so we are going, sorry, we already have a partner, yes,
You already have what?
a partner.
Yeah.
We already have a partner, so, or is it individual?
You can go with the same partner unless you have a problem with
Okay,
them.
thank you very
If you
much.
have a problem, then I suggest you talk to Veronica and she will help you.
No,
with
no, no,
change-
no, no, no. For me, no, no, no. I don't have any problem. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
is there, okay. Now, I want to,
Professor, excuse me, yes, I have a question. What do you mean with your textbooks? I mean, a chapter in your textbook, but what textbook are you referring
whatever,
to?
if you are, well, if you're, you need, what you need is a textbook to help students learn English. Some of you don't, maybe you have old textbooks from when you learned English. Or maybe if you're a teacher, you have a textbook that you're working on right now. And you can include this. What I would love to see, those of you who are teaching, who have classes, is to try out the lesson. In other words, take very specific one you're working on, maybe not a chapter, a few pages, and incorporate goal setting and try it out. And you will come back and tell us what worked and didn't work or what you didn't understand. Does that help?
Yes, I have a question in regards the first task. How do we know if it is correct or not? I mean, the improvements that we made.
Okay. Part of what I explained at the beginning, and I will definitely try, by tomorrow morning, I will give you feedback. Those of you what happened was, when I went on the program, I could not tell whether you had made an improvement. In some cases, they gave me the same thing, so I didn't see the word product or process on it. So I didn't mark it or comment on it. Something came in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday. That was the same thing, because we didn't leave till 5 until I gave you the assignment. So those that I could see that they had tried to change, I gave comments. Generally, the comment was, number one, this is you're trying to teach process. When you try to teach something, and this is true of a product as well, but you name it. Why do you name it? Because that way that you and the student can talk about it. It's, okay, why don't you try brainstorming? Right? You explain how to do it. You sample. You say why it's important or useful. And then they practice. Now, most of you who had some process didn't have this in there. And I suggested that it would make a better lesson and a more effective lesson if you followed this model. Some of you marked things that weren't processed. Some of you, I see, there have been some very interesting lectures around here. I see formative versus summative. I see a whole bunch of other things that have come up in other workshops, but I did not see process. So in those cases, I didn't mark them. So make sure that your whatever you have on the webpage for me is different. In some cases, when I looked again, nothing had changed. So I didn't mark it, didn't notice, nothing changed, and there was no evidence that you did what was asked, then I didn't mark it. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions. Let me just see something here. I'm looking here. Yeah, here it says, oh, serious, any English textbook that we already use to teach or to learn. Excellent. That's exactly what I was looking for. All right. Anything else? That's it. Okay, one more thing on this.
So, excuse me, so you will be correcting it tomorrow morning, right? Okay.
So you have time to change it if you want to. But you also, remember, have an assignment for tonight or tomorrow morning, which is the goal setting thing. And that will take you a bit of time and thinking. Smart goal setting. I should have the word smart goal setting. Okay. Help. Huh? Okay. Now here I have some references. You're welcome to look at them. I mentioned to you that I have a web page. The web page is Joan. If you look up Joan Rubin Associates, some of these articles are online and on my web page. Not all of them, but some of them. So here is the one I did on diary writing. And I show what that looks like. An earlier article on goal setting and task analysis, right? And here was one I did with my colleague in Colombia, Claudia Cerro, and have some more things about problem solution and goal setting. Okay, hopefully you have these. Here's one, this diary writing already gives you the web page. Any other questions? Okay. Well, we should take a break at 3, but do you want to take a break now, or do you want to go on to the next lesson? Can I see it? How many want already?
If we have, if we follow the class and end earlier, because I have a meeting. Could we ending the class earlier today? If we don't have a breakfast or a rest.
Oh, you want to do it without a break? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
What do you think, Marisol?
Well, it depends on the others too. I mean, do you want, I mean, all of the participants, not just one. I mean, what do you say?
I think it's good to have a break. Yeah. Some people may need to use the restroom or whatever.
I myself need to go to the restroom. I've been here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess Alejandra.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
I'm ready. I have enough. I have enough.
I don't know. It is democratic. It's the other student or the other partners. Okay. If you don't want, I say that if we have no breakfast, no recess, and follow what got earlier. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. How many of you need a break? Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
Other people? You want a break or not?
And also, okay. Also, I think, and also the professor must take a break too.
Okay.
You must be sincere, and
Let's
it's
go to
not
break.
easy
Don't
to
worry.
stay there sitting, explaining. She must need water. She must walk, because maybe we
Okay.
are looking at our own situation, yes, but maybe we are not putting in her position.
Okay, okay.
That's
Okay,
very
thank
sweet.
you,
Don't
Kathy.
Karen.
worry, don't worry.
Okay.
See,
Thank you,
Well, I
Karen.
suggest we take,
All right,
let's,
so let's take a break now.
let's take a
Uh,
break now. And why don't we
yeah.
take
10 minutes.
10
So
minutes?
Okay, thank you.
it is 2:34, and then we should be back at 2:44
45.
or
2:45.
45 then. Okay, 2:45.
Yes.
Oh, well. All right, I have to work on this. Okay, I just wanted to give this information once again to you, and you will get a copy of it, but this is my email. If you have any questions, feel free. And this is my webpage. Okay, so you'll have that when they send you this particular thing, okay? All right, this has to do with SMART goal setting. We didn't do it. Today, we're going to talk about task analysis. Some of you may be familiar with the fact that task has become a fairly important topic. Task means something, not just vocabulary, not just phrases, but something you're trying to accomplish. And they have been finding, and rightfully so, that if people have tasks, it becomes more meaningful and makes it easier. What we're doing in self-regulation is saying, not just create the tasks, and the teachers spend a lot of time worrying about what are good tasks or bad tasks, but what we're talking about is you have to know something about the task you're doing. And task analysis fits into planning. All right, so planning, when do you do planning? You do planning before you start to work, before you do an exercise, or before you, what's your purpose? Why are you listening? And then you do your SMART goal setting, which you know about, and some task analysis. And depending on how you've done your analysis, you create an action plan to begin listening or whatever. Okay, so here it is. Task analysis consists of the purpose, the classification, and we'll talk about how that's done, and task demand. Part of self-regulation and This was first proposed by Anita Wenden in 1995. I elaborated in these two articles, and we used it. I did some teacher education in Colombia and Mexico, and with fairly good success. So action research projects for speaking, reading, and listening. However, as hard as I've been pushing task analysis, it's the least applied. It's getting more used. All right, so here's some examples of some tasks. Listen to an interview. That's the task, and we'll break it down. Or if you're writing, filling in a scholarship application, that's a task. It's a meaningful task. Read a short story, so that's reading. Or create an argument or a debate. All of those are some brief examples of tasks. And those of you who, there's an enormous literature on tasks. And it's more helpful if you're focused on communication rather than on just form or grammar. That's purpose. Very similar to relevance. Why am I doing this task? Why bother? How will it help me? So here's an example of purpose. I need to learn the names of the ingredients and steps of a recipe. The purpose part is in order to be able to cook a good dinner. And I'm underlining the word in order because that's the purpose. The goal could be the names of the ingredients and steps of a recipe. That's the goal. But the purpose, why am I doing it? Why is it relevant? Is in order to. I need to identify a speaker's point of view in order to be able to write a report on it or a newspaper article. So I have to figure out how my task, here's the task, and I want to do it because I'm going to write a report. I need to learn some attention-grabbing adjectives in order to make my narrative more interesting. But well, anybody, what's an attention-grabbing adjective? Maybe awesome, mind-boggling, out of this world, never before seen. Those are adjectives. Amazing, unbelievable. Okay, those are attention grabbing. Learners need to know why they are doing a task, and I can't emphasize that enough. Up until now, the task was just a classroom assignment. So Dr. Rubin asked me to do this. If I don't see it as related to my life, I'm not very motivated. Okay, I'll do it mechanically. So if you can help learners identify a purpose, it's going to increase their motivation to work on whatever task you give them, and it becomes more relevant. Aha, now we have another way to categorize purposes. All right, a pedagogical one, I think, is the one that you are most familiar with. To get a good grade, right? To graduate, even to please my parents, although that's more personal, but something to do, or to, to get accepted to a new university, that's pedagogical. Not the most powerful purpose. Not the most powerful professional. Why are you doing this? Because I want to fill out a good application to be a scholarship. I'm doing it because I'm a medical doctor and I need to be able to talk to patients. I'm doing it because I expect to be a flight attendant and I want to know how to, that's a professional purpose. Social purpose could be something like, well, I go to many cocktail parties and I want to be able to friends. I want to make some friends, so I need to learn the right way to do this. Those are your purposes, and language is a part of making friends. So some people just like learning languages. They like playing with languages like they like playing with a crossword puzzle. That's what languages are about. Okay, I think we're not going to do this right now. We're going to go on. I want to move on because we're somewhat behind. The first part is task classification. Before you start a task, if you don't know something about the kind of task it is, it's harder. So one thing is, how do you know and feel about this particular task? I'm afraid of listening. I can't, and it's very difficult for me to listen on the telephone, particularly, right? Or here in this case, it's listening, or I'm afraid of, some people don't like to ask for a favor, right? Have feelings about asking for a favor, or not very good at giving directions. Or how do you feel about the topic? I told you, I don't like sports. I like drama, music, that kind of thing. And then what can I say about the genre? Now I'm using this word in a particular way. There are terms, but what I mean by it is the structure of a text. We did a little bit of it when we were talking about, well, what's the structure of an interview? Depends what the purpose of the interview is. If it's an interview with Pele, what's the structure going to be? It's a job interview. What's the structure? Structure is probably the interviewer will say, welcome, I understand you're interested in this job. And then there are certain regular questions that get asked. What kind of questions are asked? Anybody? Help. What kind of questions do people ask in a job interview?
How long have you been, how long have you been working, or have you worked in another before? Or for
Yeah, how long
example,
have you-
what do you know about our company?
Salary expectation.
Salary expectation. That's a tricky one.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a tricky one.
For example,
Okay,
like
what's your education? Might be what's your education, or have you taken courses about this topic?
Previous experience.
Previous experience.
yeah,
right?
like do you like how do you work? Have you worked in team before, or how do you do to work in teams, things like that?
Yeah, or what are your successes? Sometimes, you know, what in the last time you did this job, what can you tell me about your successes? You know, people did you supervise? How much money did you bring in? The worst question that happens usually is, and I think I may have mentioned this yesterday, what's your worst trait? What's your worst trait? And the right answer, the only answer is, I'm a workaholic. Right? In other words, that's what they want to hear, is that you're a workaholic. And it is a kind of negative trait in some ways, but that's it. And then at the end of the interview, the person might say, well, thank you very much for your interest. We'll get back to you, right? Do I have your information, your telephone, your email, whatever? And I'll let you know in a week or so. We're going to interview 6 other people, right? So that's the structure of a job interview. Let's see what else. How about an advertisement for an apartment? Someone who wants to rent an apartment. What's the structure there? The size,
Square meters?
the size, oh, the size. All
I
right,
would
so
be more
first of all,
interested about the price.
right, so they're going to have to include the place, maybe the address, the size of the apartment, how much it costs, what else is there? Is there a, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms? Do they include the stove and the refrigerator? Do you pay for utilities?
Social area? A gym?
If you have a what?
A gym or a pool?
Okay, a gym or a pool, right? So various things, depending on the area, and you might have more things. So there are certain things that must be there in that particular genre. Okay, so that's what you're going to be looking for. How about the structure of a text? Something you all know something about because you're all students. What's the structure of a textbook?
The structure of a textbook, I mean, as a student, I can say that you first have like the name of the book. I don't know how you specifically call it, with a picture or whatever. Then you, in the next pages, they introduces the authors and then the index.
Chapters, chapter headings. Index, usually the index, which is the subject index, at least that's what I'm thinking about. You have chapter headings, right? Chapter by chapter by chapter. That's the way you can tell it's a textbook. Chapter, maybe some subjects, chapter. And then what else is there? After that, you might have the copyright, the date it was published, right? I often look for the date it was published. We, for example, have bought some books, which are not textbooks, about Panama when we came. One of them was dated 2016, and the other was dated 2021. What does that tell me? If one is 2016 and the other is 2020, 21, what do I know is true?
That is a new edition, edition of the book. Is the new edition of a book? The new edition.
And what is that? What else did that tell you? If I'm interested in finding out how much hotels cost, look at the one for 2021, because the prices are going to be more updated. Some of the information about events or theaters or something may be out of date, right? Some of the stuff in 2016. So it's important to know what the date is, depending on what you're using the book for. If you're doing a book on astronomy, if it's a textbook on astronomy and it's older than a couple of years, out of date. Astronomy has been changing so dramatically with all of these amazing telescopes. So the date's important. So you need to know, sometimes my expectation of the structure of a published book is that the date is somewhere toward the front. And if it's not there, I'm saying, maybe I look at the back, maybe it's at the back, but maybe not. No date. What does that tell you about the information? Out of date? Maybe out of date. So it's important to know the structure. Next one is the organization and function of ideas. How do people present the information? We'll come back to that. What is the language? I'm going to give you examples. So is there a lot of slang? Not specific words, but is there a lot of slang? Is it very formal? And what kind of vocabulary? And finally, are there any special kinds of speech acts? Do you know the word speech acts? Is that a new word? Speech acts? You know?
No.
Okay. So, for example, giving thanks is a speech act. Apologizing is a speech act. Making a request is a speech act. Very important part of language is knowing how to make a request, how to express gratitude. Big deal, okay? All right. So one of the purposes of task classification is the learner unpacks the task, what's involved, so they can anticipate what's going to happen. Develop some idea of what's wanted in the task. Every task, skill, genre is different. And learn about their characteristics in order to know how to approach the learning of that task. If he doesn't know much about the task, he or she won't have enough information to choose appropriate strategies. That's a big word, appropriate. Okay. And task classification provides establishing task demands. Task demands are strategy. All right, so here we are. Here's task classifications in a nutshell. Type of task and skill, the genre, the rhetorical skill, style, the language, and the vocabulary. Okay. Right. I'll do the first one, and then you can go into your groups. Here I have, let me see, I have, so here we have, I'll come back. Oops. Back. I can't go back. All right, here we are. Conversation. Yesterday, I mentioned the structure of a conversation and how useful it was. Greetings, small talk, maybe some elaborated thing, and close. My students who learned this, what happened is they went further. Greetings, there are many kinds of greetings. I can say hi, or good morning, Dr. Rubin. That has a totally different meaning than saying hi or hello, or how you doing, right? And students need to know that hello is not just the only way to greet somebody. It depends on who you're talking to, how well you know them, right? Small talk. Small talk, again, it depends on the culture and who's talking, the status of the people involved. So, for example, in the United States, it is not appropriate to ask, how much do you earn? That's not acceptable. Even in a job interview, it's not acceptable. Or are you married? That's not acceptable. I can't ask you that on a job interview. Well, maybe the weather, maybe a sport, something on sports, maybe something on a movie, or that's small talk. That's acceptable small talk. I don't know what you talk about here, but anything else I've missed? And then obviously the serious part is it's very specific to you and the person. And then the closing. How does the closing work? Well, in some cultures, it takes 5 to 10 minutes. Oh, goodbye. Hey, how are you? How is Anna? Oh, we must get together again. And next time at my house. And what do you like to eat? I'll get something special for you. And that could go on for 5 or 10 minutes, right? At least. Whereas if you're in a formal academic setting, you might say, bye, or see you tomorrow, or have a good week. Those are closings. Okay, that's the structure of a conversation with some elaboration on how formal or informal it is. Now, let's see if my friend Veronica is here. Veronica. Hello, Veronica. Here. Veronica. Right. We need Veronica because we need to send people into group. Marisol, are you here?
Yes, I am. I'm trying to contact Veronica.
Yeah, get Veronica because I want to send people into groups to figure out, let's see, I'm not sure, we've done some of these. Let's work on these 3. Actually, we worked a little on a textbook, but having written one, I can tell you that it does have a structure, a soap opera, scientific article. Okay, Veronica.
Yes, yes, tell me, I'm right here.
All right, how many people do we have?
How many people do we have? Okay, let me see. Wait, give me a second. We are 20 in total, but I have to withdraw 1, 2, 3, 4, 15 participants.
Okay, let's divide them into 5 groups, 3 each.
5 groups of 3, okay. Give me a second. Yes.
You do that. And then group 1 and 2 will do a scientific article. 3 will do a textbook. Back. Okay, you have, how many groups? You have 4 groups, you have 5 groups.
Yeah, you said 5 groups of 3.
Yeah, so I'd say the first 3 groups work on a scientific article and the last 2 work on a textbook. And we've done some of that, but the scientific article is pretty new.
Excuse me, I don't understand what we have to do in groups.
What?
I don't understand what we have to do in groups. I mean, you give us the genre, but what else?
What I'm asking you is, tell me what the organization of a scientific article is. Tell me what the organization of a textbook is. It shouldn't take you too long. We did it for a job interview. Shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes, but I'll give you a few more to work on it. Okay?
How much time are you giving them? 10?
Say what?
How much time? How much time to discuss? 10 minutes?
Maximum.
Okay, let me check.
Se hubiera recostado en el otro allá, el otro.
Is that a question?
No.
Who's asking? Maria Isabel?
Yes, Professor.
What's your question?
No, I don't have any questions. Just I'm waiting for my group.
Okay, the only, okay, just to make sure, you want us to know how we organize
for example, a scientific article. In this case, if we pick up scientific articles, so you want to know how we are going to be organizing that?
How it is normally organized.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Okay, is everything clear so that I can create the groups? Or cities. Right now you are appearing in group number 4, but when I create the group, I'm going to change you to group number 2 so that it will be 3 per group, okay?
Okay, got it.
Okay, ready? Here we go.
Okay. Okay, so some of you work, it seems, on interview. And I think the important question in trying to figure out the genre of the interview, obviously it's questions and answers in any kind of interview. That's a basic part of an interview. But obviously the order in which those questions occur depends on what kind of interview. So is it a job interview, or is it an interview with a famous person? Or is it maybe who is doing it again with a famous person, but certain kinds of questions you might expect. How about who did scientific article? Someone report on scientific article. I need someone.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are we?
In this case,
Yeah, the main.
Is that Ilka?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, tell
Yeah.
what did you find in a scientific article?
Well, the first thing we find is the title, then the author or authors, the abstracts in the main language and also translated into another language. If it is Spanish, it should be also in English. Then the keywords, the introduction, the methods, the results, and then we have discussion or conclusion and the references. That's what we have. That is basically what the structure of the scientific article.
Also regarding to that, regarding to that, we sometimes we need to know about the variables, because sometimes it has a hypothesis that sometimes they are nulls or not, but we need to prove that. The problem, because when we do an articles, it is research, and we need to find out which is the problem.
Okay, so maybe the hypothesis.
Yeah,
what's your hypothesis?
Because based on that is what we are going to develop our article. I mean, sometimes it has to deal with people. Then we need to know about the population, also, and the sample, because that has most of the time what is included in scientific articles. What else? The type of, she said, Ilka says the type of investigation is that quantitative research or qualitative research. Besides that, I think, let me think about it. The instrument, because when we are dealing with scientific articles, we need to collect information. So sometimes we need, or we use certain kind of instruments. So that is part of a scientific article.
Very good. Okay, can you see that? It's interesting. I think
also we have to use a statistic to present the results with graphic, because to be a scientific article we have to use a statistic.
Quantitative research.
Yeah, and the conclusion based on the results.
Very good. And sometimes if it is an educational article, you say, what, you know, the
Qualitative.
limitations is also sometimes used in educational. Very good.
Justification is also justification, but we also have some kind of delimitations. And one thing that is important too is establish the objective of the research.
Very good. Sounds like you're all, or several of you are very familiar with the structure of a scientific article, and the scientific article has very many components, many parts to it. And so sometimes when you're looking at the article, you say, where is this information? Where is this kind of information? Or I want to know what the method was. And you can, if you know the method, you say, man, I'm not interested in that kind of method. Is it quantitative or qualitative? Depends.
Also, what is important also, the literature review that's gonna be supporting that your article.
They're going to look for certain things. Okay, we did the interview, we did the scientific article. What else did we have? Who did something else?
Biography, Profe.
Which one?
To be very right in the reference and the citation. You can say anything that you haven't considered into your topic and make the citation of the actor. If don't do that, you get problem. You know that there are the last, I think, president of the South America was someone read her thesis, and they see that she didn't put the number of the actor, that is complagio, and he has to be a part of the government in South America. Yeah,
well, references is important, and a review of the literature. In other words, review of the literature should be there, because otherwise, what is your article going to contribute to the literature, what's already there? Okay, I think we're going to move on. Let me go see if I can get to where I need to go. But the point I guess I want to make with this is, when you think about the genre, some interview could just be simply the structure is question answer. And if you are going into an interview, say a job interview, you might want to ask, what are the questions? What kind of questions do people ask? I mean, simply question, answer. And if you know what the questions are, you can work on the answers before you go into the interview, right? So having that little simple structure helps. Okay, let me see where we are, folks, and see if I can get back to where I need to go. All right, let's see here. I think I'm there. All right. All right. Now, what are some rhetorical styles? What are some rhetorical styles? Most of these are familiar to you.
Excuse me, Professor, if you're sharing, we're not seeing the presentation.
What's that? 1 minute, I'm getting some help. Did I do the wrong thing? All right, so there are many rhetorical styles, but here are three that I think are fairly familiar to you. You can divide up this cake many different ways, but expository, where you talk about something; narrative, you tell a story; and argumentative or persuasive, you're making a point. Here's how can you tell if something is descriptive, narrative, or persuasive? What kind of logic or questions does each style use? Let's do that. Here are some of the elements of a narrative. A narrative tells a story. It has a plot, right? It has characters. It has a setting. It might have conflict and climate and resolution. A narrative can have a tone that can be very scary, amusing. It has a theme. And also has a perspective. These I got from, bye, see you tomorrow. Anyway, if you want, I got these elements of a narrative. And if you know these elements, when you are looking at a text, you know what you're going to be looking for. If it's persuasive, it takes a position on some issue and justifies it. And it might use thought-provoking questions. And you were talking about scientific articles is for something that's persuasive, tries to give you data to support their position, or logical arguments, or details, or proof that can be measured. Now, one of the tricky parts about persuasion that we're always very careful about is it appeals to authority. Experts say, how many of you, experts say that they do that. And the problem with that is, and pick and choose what their experts are, who their experts are. So, talking about debates. One of the things you want to do in a debate is to anticipate what your opposition is going to say. And you answer it right away. And then it uses concluding phrases to sum up the argument. Okay, whoops, where was I? Missed one. Where do we got narrative? We have narrative, persuasive. I didn't have expository. Okay. Now, what are some of the kinds of characteristics of the language? Well, depending on the particular kind of document, the syntax could be very complex or very simple. If you're talking about a narrative, sometimes 2 words, not very complex if it's a narrative. What kind of language? Is it general or technical, formal or casual? Does it have lots of conditionals or passives? Does it repeat? What kind of politeness features are there? And remember, I talked about speech acts. There's making requests, giving compliments, expressing gratitude. And how much redundancy is there? What happens? Oops. Oh, yes, Alexander. Your question. I see your hand is up. Would you tell us what your question is? Alexander? Okay, I see you. What you want? Alexander, please answer.
Okay, excuse me, professor.
Yeah. Okay, do you have a question?
No, I don't have questions.
Oh, I see your hand is up. Okay, let's leave it alone. Okay, and what is the type, what kind of non-communicative, what kind of body stance, what kind, how close do people stand? Are people touching? Are they using gestures? So all of these relate to language and help you understand the kind of text it is. I mention this because there was a professor at a university in Washington, D.C., Georgetown University, who taught students about these characteristics, told them to read much more profound and to listen to much more profound things. And then finally, I hear some characteristics speaking, okay. Remember we talked about the fact that listening was difficult, and it's because of the language characteristics of speaking. I want, did you go? No, Jew? You hear that? Did you ever do that? That's a reduced form. How fast are people speaking? Are you using alliteration? Do you know what alliteration is? Where the sounds match each other. Can I go is a vowel reduction or differences in dialect. Intonation. Now, I did this yesterday, but I could be very angry and therefore my voice is very raspy. And that tells you something about attitude. It tells you something about, you want to pay attention to that because it depends on how are they talking. Are they insulting you? You never know. And what we call prosodic features. Is somebody speaking very softly? If they're speaking softly, what does that mean? Good. Or have I got a sore throat? Or if I speak very quickly, what does that mean? It's so nice to see breathiness. Almost sexy, huh? Is it sexy? Oh, it's so. Can't see my colleague here, but all right. Okay. Important for learners to learn about these and use them to their listening. All right. Then we get down to vocabulary. If we're talking about the weather, words do I expect? Now this you should be able to tell. What are some words you use with weather? Come on, I want 4 or 5 people to volunteer. Come on. When you're talking about the weather, what vocabulary do you use?
Season.
The season, so you might use winter, spring, fall.
Forecast.
What else?
Temperature. Forecast.
Temperature, cold, hot.
Global
degree.
warming, Professor, global warming.
Warming, right. Rainy, snow, cloudy.
Storms.
What's that?
Storms.
Storms. Yeah. So you could list these. If you're talking about sports, I guess it depends on the sport. Let's take soccer. What kind of words do you expect with soccer?
Player.
What?
Player.
Referee. What else?
Match.
Match. A match.
Football, soccer, so much money for players.
Money, football. Okay. Different players. Right? Different players. Okay. And if you're talking about a job, what are you going to talk about?
Salary.
Salary. Yes, indeed. What else?
Unemployment.
Your hours.
Overtime.
Schedule. Yeah, schedules can be very difficult. What else? Your colleagues.
It is part-time, full-time job.
Part-time, full-time, good. What other vocabulary?
Excuse me?
Any other vocabulary?
um,
What's
let's,
that?
I'm gonna say that
Dress code.
what are the, I don't wanna say that, but I mean, I can, like, no, maybe that, no.
Okay. Okay. So now let's go on.
How many, I mean, that's okay.
Here we go. Here's some suggestions I have. Cold, hot, you came up with that. Rain, snow, wind, tornado, hurricane. Fortunately, you don't have those here, tornadoes or hurricanes.
No.
No. And job, you would expect to hear qualifications, experience, education, salary, dress code, sports. You might expect the name of the sport, the rules, something about the athletes.
The positions.
What's that?
The positions.
Their positions, yeah. Okay, good. I don't know about sports, so you know more. Okay. All right. So what is the, we've been doing task classification. And how can that help you when you're going to listen? Right? So we have what we call task classification. And the term that's used is task demands, but it's really strategies. Think of it as strategies. So the classification says, what kind of task is this? And what do I know about this kind of task? And then demands are, what, given the classification, how am I going to accomplish this task? What strategies and actions could I use, and what knowledge do I need? So let's look at genre. All right, imagine that it is directions. If the genre is directions, we know that the information is given in a sequence, right? First, then, right? That's what directions are. Remember when I talked about getting around to a hotel in Japan? Because I know that directions come in a certain order, what did I do? I only paid attention to the first direction. Go to the right. Okay, I went a block. Next question, where is the hotel? Go to the left. Now they said much more than that. They said, go to the left, go to the right, where there's a drugstore, do this. But I only, in order to get through that particular task, I had to know that even in Japan, directions are given in a sequence. So what can I do? Look for language markers indicating when a particular direction is completed or the next has begun. Okay, so for right, left, blocks. Okay, those were the words I would listen for. And one command at a time. Okay. Oops, where am I? That's all I have here. Now, here's an example of an interview. The topic is the advantages of Panama as a tourist destination, a very popular topic here these days. How about, what do I know about it? I know something about Panama. So I say, it shouldn't be difficult, but then I haven't thought about it from a tourist point of view. Feelings. Well, it makes me nervous to listen to Spanish, especially when it's spoken twice, rapidly. So what should I do? Take a deep breath. Try to listen twice if I get them to repeat it. And break the talk into smaller parts. You said this, you said that. I might have to control the speaker. All right. If it's a question and answer, think about the questions and predict the possible answers. That's why knowing the structure allows you to figure out what's coming and to be prepared. This is true in anything you do. If you go to a job interview, or if you're going to listen to directions, or if you're going to go to a movie, things have structures. And knowing thinking about what those structures are makes it easier to understand. Style is persuasion. Okay, this is a rhetorical style. So what am I going to do? The style is all the things that people do to persuade you that Panama is a good tourist destination. Well, someone's going to give me some reasons. And for those reasons, which is the interview, so probably it's fairly planned language, not no slang or full sentences. Might be activities and places. So beach, and we're talking about, again, the advantages of Panama as a tourist destination. So beach, surfing, kayaking, zip lining, those snorkeling, right? Other advantages. Actually, one of the things that is an advantage of Panama City is your restaurants. You have phenomenal restaurants. I didn't put that in there, but I should have. Okay. So what I'm trying to show you is that by doing the task classification, you can think about what you should do. That's what this is meant to be. Oh, sorry. Rhetorical style. Okay, here's another one. The general way that ideas, is it descriptive? Is it temporal? Well, look for markers of time. First, next, or place. Sure how this one gets in here, but anyway, language is not complex syntax and mostly imperative. Do this, do that. So if it's imperative, look for the information. Okay, where am I? I'm lost here. All right. Then you come to an action plan. Oops, where are we? Given the many things I need to do, what is the most efficient order in which to do them? First, next, given what you saw in demands. Now, by promoting task analysis, you are helping students set their goals. What am I going to pay attention to? And they are thinking about the task and trying to figure out how to work. On a little bit here, when you are a teacher, learner, I call it learner self-management. We've talked about self-direction, self-reflection. How do you promote this? Normally, answers. We tell people what to ask them questions. How did you get there? How did that work for you? Why didn't it work? If you have a student who's very good at getting answers in a classroom, say to them, how did you get that answer? Right? Or, and why did you do that? What are you doing when you're doing this? You are raising their awareness, their processing, and also you're sharing. Let me see where we are. Hold on one second. I want to see how many. Tell me how many more are in this one. Let me just see something. Oh, okay, good. All right, got it. Okay. Again, if you want them to be independent, to take control, find out what they already know. Fine. That way they can use that information rather than assuming that you know what they know. I don't know what your life experience is. I don't know. And you can't. I mean, one of the problems is I can't know all about you. I can't know what styles you like. I can't know what your experiences at home were. Some of them are nice and some of them not so nice. I can't know what you prefer to do or to whatnot. I don't know how you think. Maybe you're aesthetic. Maybe you are someone who is analytic. Maybe you're. I'm someone who, if I hear it, then I can read it. I'm much more verbal, oral. So each person is different, and each person brings different things. So how can we teach in the same way? What your classes in methodology say is, this is the way to do it. What you had, I mean, we were just having a conversation, Adriana and I, students are not happy when the teacher doesn't give them the answers. That's the way they expect teachers to behave. And you have to explain to them that, hey, this is the new world, and you're going to have to learn. There's a lot. I can't possibly teach you all the things that are going to happen in your lifetime. I'm not going to be there. So you have to know how to deal with that new information. I don't care whether it's language or science or history. I need to help you learn. What are you doing? You know, what is it you already know and how can you use that? Students, ask people how they feel and suggest ways to address the feelings. Maybe don't sit for too long, stand up, walk around the block, come back. Talked about don't correct most errors. Don't correct. Why do we not do that? Because it won't make a difference. It may not be important. They may not pay attention. And then have a conversation with them. What's your best? I know myself that my best thinking time is in the morning. How many of you think best or most creative in the morning? Buddy? There's one over here. How about you? When's your best thinking time? Huh? Right? Okay, some people it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Right? So everybody has better time to work on a problem. Okay. You can help students look at resources. So if they're having a problem, show them where the resources are. Why? Because you're not giving them the answers, you're showing them how to get answers. Again, you won't care. You can also suggest ways to learn, learning strategies. Again, remember, we spent a lot of time earlier, not just the strategy, but what its name is and why it's important. Okay. All right, now we're going to do a little activity here. All right, activity is to practice facilitating a learner's planning for an event by helping them think about their goals, purpose, and task analysis. Okay, you have SMART goals, which include and their purpose, and task analysis is all of this stuff we've been talking about: genre, rhetorical style, vocabulary, language.
That is not good.
What's that?
It is not when we classify it by.
I have a question. We'll see what that is.
Like this, like pedagogical,
purpose,
professional, social, personal. That the classification.
Yeah, you can use that purpose. Yes. Why are you doing it? Okay, so here are 4 different role plays. We're gonna where's my friend Victoria? Victoria, Sonia. Veronica, calling Veronica. Okay.
Okay, Victoria, tell me.
Veronica. All right. Well, this
Tell
is
me, Dr. John.
are we still 15 people? Yeah, I think so, huh?
Yeah, I think we have not changed. We can be the same
role
groups,
play means 2 people. One's a learner.
2 people,
and
but okay. You want pair groups. Okay.
all right, so I want, let's see, I want 14, let's see, I want 7 groups of 2 people
Okay.
and 3. Well, 2 groups, sorry, 7 groups of 2 people is 14.
Mm-hmm.
One of those groups has to have a 3rd person.
Okay. Let's
And
create.
why don't you organize the groups? Organize the groups. And there are 3 role plays. So groups 1 to 5 will do role play 1. 6 to 10 will do 2. And 11 to 15 will do 3. Notice that all of these are listening activities. And what you're going to do is one person is going to be the learner, and the other person is going to be the facilitator, somebody who, a teacher or whatever, helping them how to do this. And they're going to help them by asking them what their goals are. Why are you listening to a newscast? What's important about this cocktail party? Why are you at the cocktail party? What kind of job is this? You're going to ask questions. Remember, you're as a facilitator or teacher, you're going to ask questions. In the case where we have, and then what I would suggest is take turns. One of you be the learner, the other be the facilitator or the teacher, and then change. One of you is the other one be a learner. It might be different. Okay? Have you got us organized, Veronica? Not yet. Okay, everybody clear. In the case of the one that has 3 people.
Okay, give me a second. Give me a second that I'm just moving some people so that we have 2 in each group. Group. This is group 2. Okay. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. I need somebody in this group.
Let me just look at something here.
Anna. Okay. Anna.
I'll have more.
It's
a long one. See what somebody said in the chat. They keep asking for. Teamwork. I don't understand that.
No, that was when you were explaining about the sport, the weather, and the people were just writing some answers on the Zoom chat.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me make sure that I have everybody in a group. Okay, Aristides, Marisol, no, Hilda Cities. Okay, Isabella.
Excuse me, so we have to choose the role play that we want, or what?
You'd go with your partner. That's a good question. Go with your partner and decide First, one of you will be the learner, and you are going to think about goals and purpose, and then switch. Let the other person play the learner and you play the facilitator. Maybe they have a different reason, a different kind of newscast. Or maybe
No, excuse me. What I'm referring to is that independently of the role plays, we can decide from the three which one we would like to work on.
no, I said that groups 1 to 5 will work on role play 1, 6 to 10 will work on role play 2, and 11 to 15 will work on role play 3. So see which group you're in.
But we are only going to have 7 groups.
Okay, 7 groups. Oh, sorry.
Yes,
You're right.
7 groups.
Sorry. Okay, so group 1 and 2 will work on role play 1. 2 and 3 and 4. Let's see, sorry, 3 and let me try this. Let me give you a piece of paper. All right. So we have 7 groups. 1, 2, 6, 7. All right, and we have 3 things. So these 2 will do number 1. Number 3. Okay, like this. Oh, thank you. Groups 1 and 2 will work on role play 1. Groups 3 and 4 will work on role play 2. And groups 4, 5, 6, and 7 will work on number 3. Is that clear? Do I need a screen to write
Yes.
that? Where's the screen? Can I have a screen to write? Where can I write? I need a. Where's the screen? I need to write. God. 1 minute, I'm gonna write it. Okay, blank.
Somebody just drop out and
Okay, here we go. All right,
Two.
group, I'm gonna write.
I don't know who dropped out.
Group 1 will do role play.
Wait, Professor, Dr. Ilka, can you tell me which one of the 2 devices you produce sound? Because you have 2 devices and you are divided.
That's my expert here.
Ilka?
Wait a minute, I need more. Back up here. Group role play. Groups 1 and 2 will do role play.
I think there is no problem, Professor. Role play 1, group 1 and 2. Role play
Right.
2, 3
All
and
right.
4. And role play 3, 4, 5, no, 5, 6, and 7. No problem.
Yeah, number 3. Okay, everybody got it? Okay, very good. But remember, what you're doing is helping them, delete this, is helping them think about SMART goals, SMART goals, why they're doing it, what they know about that particular task, and what they can do about it in order to do it. And when I say report, this will have to be an oral report. Oh, well, it could be a written report, that's all right.
Okay, ready?
Okay, you're going to your groups and we'll give you 15 minutes from drama. It comes from the word drama. Each person in a drama has a role, has a part they play. So in this case, we're talking about two roles, the learner and the facilitator. And what a role play consists of is a conversation. It's a conversation. And in this case, the learner, let me take role play one, comes to the facilitator and says, I don't care who it is. It could be a teacher. It could be somebody in a laboratory. It could be a friend. Oh my goodness, I have an assignment and I have to listen to a newscast to make a report for school. What can I do? And the facilitator starts asking questions about their goal. Why are you doing this? Is this going to be useful for you for other things? How is a report organized? How is the newscast organized? How is the report organized? You need to know something about the task. Is that clear? Evidently, some people have not had experience with role plays. I thought that was widespread.
Professor, if you want, I prepare the role plays with my partner Eileen, and we represent that in order that the other student that have done how more or less how is doing. Okay, how is?
You and Eileen, which one did you do?
A job interview. I'm going to be the boss. Okay.
You want to show us your role play.
Okay.
All right, everybody, they're going to show us and then I'll comment.
Eileen, this is, my name is Alejandra. I'm the manager of the McDonald's. Do you want to work in McDonald's? Tell me.
Yes, of course. I'm very eager
Excuse
to
me.
start working.
Hold on. You're not in McDonald's. She hasn't gone for the interview yet. She needs to prepare for it. She's not, you sound like you're in McDonald's. Are you a manager in McDonald's? That's what I heard.
Yeah, I am the manager. And
no. Unless she is, if she's a friend of yours, let's say she is your mother's friend or her mother's friend, and you're helping her prepare for an interview in McDonald's or wherever, but you're not the manager. This is preparation time.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go back, Veronica. People want 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any more questions? You understand what a role is? One person is the learner and they say, oh, please help me. I need to do this. And the other person starts asking questions so that they get clear why they're doing it and how to do it. That's what, and how to do it depends on the structure of the thing and what you need to know. What kind of language should you use? How should you present yourself? Okay. All right. What time
Professor, excuse me, I have a question. What do you refer with task analysis? Is that everything what you're explaining?
Task analysis is what we just spent the last 10 minutes talking about. Task analysis is the genre. It's the rhetorical style. Is it expository? Is it narrative? Is it persuasive? It's the language, the kind of language that you need. If you go into McDonald's and you're talking as if you were a professor, you're not going to get the job. People won't appreciate you. So that in a place like McDonald's, your language should be very basic, simple, right? It depends on where you're going. What kind of language are you going to use? Are you going to use a lot of slang? Or are you going to be fairly formal? Oh, that's task analysis. Okay, so are we ready, Veronica? start
Yep.
the clock. Everybody go back to their partner. And please, I hope if you have any
Okay,
questions.
here we
let
go.
me know. Here we go.
Do you take money out of the ATM? Like you take out the garbage?
I remember pressing buttons on elevators. I'm worried about. Well, I was a super high tech guy when I got there, right? And I was the first president of Blackbird. And so years pass, and no one else has Blackbird. And still got the clip on the and then finally this year, they said, "This president going to give you a smartphone instead of a BlackBerry." I thought, all right, this is cool. So I'm excited. I get the thing, and they're like, well, this president's security reasons, it is a great phone, state of the art, but it doesn't take pictures. You can't text. The phone doesn't work. You can't play your music on. So basically, it's like
All right, what I'm going to do is we need to make some sort of a decision. We will go through this tomorrow, and because I think it's important. What I think some of you are missing is this is not, we say in English, rocket science. This is what you know about life, about cocktail parties, about newscasts, about job interviews. You know that. You have a lot of background. So all I'm trying to do is getting you to think about it in connection so you can help a learner do it in a second language, all right? And use that knowledge to be able to listen better. Okay, now we have another issue. Let me see where Marisol is. Marisol, are you with us?
Yep.
All right, you want to work on the decision-making for Friday.
Yes, this is my camera. Yeah. The thing, my dear colleagues, is that participant, is that Professor Rubin has to travel on Friday, and we need to decide the day which we're going to make up for this for Friday classes. I don't know, Professor Rubin, do you have a proposal on a day? We thought if it was going to be possible on Saturday morning, but we have to get a consensus of everybody.
The thing is, when is the Dr. John Robin going to return? So then we can decide.
So I will return Tuesday. So anytime after next Tuesday will work for me.
Okay, so considering that we can do it next week, it would be March the 22.
What day is that?
That is Wednesday.
Yeah, that should work. I have some doctor's appointment. No, it's later. My husband has a doctor's appointment later, but 22nd should work. Will that work for everybody? Wednesday the 22nd?
Professor,
Yes,
it work
for me.
Professor, I can work. I can attend because I have another
Yes, appointments.
Seminar, another appointment. Next week I have in the morning and the afternoon 2 seminars.
Wow.
This was programmed to be on Friday, and then
yes, that's a problem.
Yeah.
What day would work? Friday would work for you or no?
No, because the seminar are Monday to Friday. 20 hours synchronic and 20 hours asynchronic. And I can, because I have two. I want in the morning and in the afternoon, 2 seminars. One in the morning, one in the afternoon next week.
Professor Rubin, is it possible to join us by Zoom on Saturday?
Yeah.
Saturday morning?
In the morning with this next Saturday morning?
This coming Saturday morning.
Not this one. Not this coming.
Okay.
one.
Excuse me, it would be the 25th, I think.
So we are talking about this coming
Okay,
Saturday
let me
morning.
see. Okay, I will not be here on the 18th, but I will be here on the 25th.
Yeah, that's the one we're talking about. Saturday, the 25th. So I don't know if you can.
No, Isabella, that's the one you are talking about. What I'm talking about, joining us by Zoom this coming Saturday, because you don't need to be at the university. You just need the link in order to.
It won't work. I'm otherwise occupied this coming Saturday. I could do it on
Saturday 18th, or you talking about Saturday 18 or Saturday 25?
25.
I don't know.
No, okay. I can't. Okay, I can't make it because I already have an appointment on that date.
Which one? 25?
Yes.
Is it in the morning or afternoon?
The whole day.
So then where are we? Somebody can't do, all right. How about
can.
Monday the 27th?
No, Monday the 27th, that's going to be difficult for us because we start classes at the university.
Yes, we start classes at the university.
Classes.
They have classes.
Excuse me. Let's see how we organize this. The situation is that most of the people that are taking this seminar already have other appointments and assignments for next week. This week and next week, many people are coordinating registration because classes officially begins on the 27th at the University of Panama. So that means that we are trying to organize ourselves so that we can be ready for the 27th. I don't know how many people. That's why we are thinking on this Saturday. But I hear other people are thinking on the following Saturday. So we need to coordinate in order for us to know how many people can make it on this Saturday. How many people can make it on the 25th? And also we need to take into consideration if the Zoom from the university is going to be available. If it's not going to be available, then we need to think on another person that help with the Zoom. So that means that we need to take into consideration all that also.
I may be able to do it in the afternoon of Friday, but about, let's say, 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, if that would work. If you have a Zoom, because I will not be in the country.
Okay.
I could do it on Friday from say 4 to 8 via Zoom.
Okay, just leave us an assignment for Friday.
That won't work. That won't work, my dear.
No, that won't work because I mean, what was scheduled are the 5 days. So Professor Joanne needs to give the 5th day that will be on Friday. But now that she has to go traveling,
I'll have to go. I have a professional commitment, but I could be available Friday from about 4 until 8, this coming Friday, via Zoom, assuming you can get the Zoom.
I do, I mean,
Edikel, can you tell us if the Zoom for the university is available from 4 to 8? Ay, perdón. Edikel, ¿puedes decirnos si el Zoom de la universidad está disponible de 4 a 8 el viernes? Eddie, ¿estás allí?
¿Qué tal, teacher Verónica? No, yo la estoy cubriendo, Edgardo Aguilar la está cubriendo, le voy a hacer la consulta. ¿Sí?
Ok, gracias, Edgardo.
Profe Verónica.
Sí, dígame, profe Nelda.
Okay. I think it is in that time I'm gonna be available for because I have a thesis defense on that day.
Okay.
So
that is on Friday from 4 to 8.
Yeah, it's in between that time. So that is what I can tell you exactly. I think it's about from 5 to 7. It's just an hour, but I don't know if that's gonna work because I'm gonna be, if that is in that day, I'm gonna be out for 1 hour because the thesis defense.
Yeah, I understand.
So I have to understand. I hope you can understand me if I'm not available. I mean, I'm not available just during that time.
Yeah, I heard you. Oh, this is complicated. Ay.
How many can make it Saturday from 4, sorry, 4 to 8.
Saturday or Friday?
Let's say Saturday, not Friday. Oh, Friday,
This-
yeah, Friday, sorry, excuse me, Friday from 4 to 8. How many can make it? Raise your hand. On the 7th, you were going to do it on from 1 to 5, and now I'm proposing from 4 to 8. How many can make it? Can you raise your hand, please? Hands up, one there, or seatings.
I'm just gonna be available, but just for 1 hour. I have problem.
Oh, you have problems?
Yeah, because I can from 4 to 6. But I'm busy from
6 to
8.
I don't see a lot of people. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it.
Okay, how many are going to be available on Friday from 4 to 8? I mean, use the
On one hand, Anna
Yes.
says she will be available. Anybody else? Anna, I see you.
use the reactions.
Friday, next Friday,
Yeah.
this Friday?
No, this Friday, this coming Friday from 4 to 8. This coming Friday.
Assuming we can get the Zoom.
It will be Friday, excuse me, it will be Friday the 17th.
Yeah, Friday the
Then we're
17th.
supposed to conclude, but then we are going to do it from 4 to 8. I mean, who is going to be available? This coming Friday, the 17th, the day in which we're supposed to finish the seminar.
I think that
from
would be
4 to
better
8,
because in that case we finish with that.
within the dates.
Assuming you can get the Zoom, Veronica or Marisol. Can you get the Zoom?
Yeah, that's why Edgardo is asking if the Zoom is available.
Sí, necesito preguntar.
You know?
Necesito preguntar.
How many you got? 1, 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That's 6. Anna, you have Anna on there? Karen, you can't make it? Karen?
Ocho.
Amango?
Celia said it is okay.
Hilda?
Okay, it is Saturday, so on Saturday I have
Friday.
to go.
No, no, Friday.
Friday or
Friday.
Saturday?
Friday. I can't do it.
Friday.
Oh, okay, Friday. Okay, I can. The Friday.
Okay, so you are trying to decide about what day?
Friday.